Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer joins me today to unpack South Africa's first fuel cell factory, remining legacy material, and climate change. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Sashni.
Now, South Africa is set to get its first fuel cell factory at the Dubai Trade Port in Durban, established by a Taiwanese company, Chem.
You know, we've been waiting for the action on the fuel cell front. There are a lot of companies waiting and poised and ready to invest. A lot of them are looking at the Tambo special economic zone. We knew that Chem was also planning to do something down in Durban, and they like to be in those economic zones because not only can they supply the local market, but they can also export. And coming from South Africa, they've got some advantages because their costs are in rands and they can do things quite dramatically. But we can see that it's great for South Africa, and you can see that these special incentives being given by the government are attracting foreign investment. Now, obviously, this will start off as a sort of an assembly, you know, because there's no real components that are locally manufactured yet. But we know that there are companies wanting to manufacture those components, and we spoke about our Tambo. So we could have, you know, key components being locally manufactured here and finding a market close by, like at Dubai Trade Port and perhaps the Platinum Valley side of things. What I'm so enthusiastic about is we've been talking about these fuel cells for so long, and now suddenly there it is. They're going to manufacture them locally. They have been supplying Vodacom, so it's a sort of replacement for diesel generation and batteries, and in a way that is important because we've noted, looking at TV, that there have been thefts of those batteries. You know, there's people inclined to steal those batteries because they can get the metals out of them. This is going to be something they know nothing about, and really there isn't anything there that they can really recycle. And at the same time, we know that in rural areas, there are a lot of communities that haven't got electricity, and the chances of them getting electricity are very slim because they're outside of the electricity grid. And you know, this company could then supply fuel cells to those areas, and you could have the solar power link, and you could have a nice sort of entry of electricity into some of these rural areas that are electricity starved.
And this week, the Joburg Indaba heard calls for mining companies to remine legacy material at discontinued mines before opening new ones. Yes,
it was interesting. You know, they were saying that there is legacy material. You know, we saw with the gold mines, there are a lot of dumps here, and we saw that money was made out of that. You know, they extracted gold and silver and even acids in certain circumstances that are commercial, and they could do it in a way that wasn't as costly as going underground. But what they're looking at the moment, and what came up at the Joburg Indaba, is coal particularly, because you know the world is sort of turning its back on coal. There are funders that don't want to fund coal, and they're saying, look, come on guys, before you start investing in new coal mines now and finding yourself with stranded coal mines, perhaps look at what's on surface. There's a lot on surface. You know, there's slurry on surface, there's discard coal on surface. Can't you do something with that? And we know when we go into Witbank, I mean, gee, you know, the amount of discard coal there is quite voluminous, and sometimes at night there is just it just catches a light, and you see these fires on the dumps. So that would be an area where they could look at. I know it's not as easy as people think to actually recover that coal and that energy, but I'm sure there must be some way to do it. And instead of really going headlong into new coal mines at the moment, what the Joburg Indaba heard, it was more of an environmental session ahead of the actual Indaba, which is on the 2nd or 3rd of next month, October, is that, look, get this material first, get what you can out of it, because there's a lot of it, and see whether you can save yourself the expense and the investment of going headlong into new mines, you know, even open cast mines that are fairly quick, both by the fact that there is a bit of a risk because you could end up with a mine that's no longer needed, but also from an environmental point of view, you know, do your bit.
And speaking of the environment, much more proactive global response is needed to tackle climate change because we aren't doing enough.
Exactly. I mean, you know, we can see that climate change is real. It is the biggest problem that the planet experiences at the moment, and you need governments to really set their sights on changing this, and there's a massive opportunity to do so. I mean, you can see that even in the field of fossil fuels, fuel that we use in our cars, what would stop South Africa at the moment? Just saying, no, well, we're going to produce hydrogen, and we're going to bring that hydrogen up in the normal petrol tankers, because you can use the normal petrol tanker with the certain technology that's been developed that makes hydrogen oil-like. You bring that in, you use your exact same facilities. You can use your rail wagons, you can use your road tankers, you can use the ships that you're using, you can even use the infrastructure that you've got at the petrol station here, the tank beneath the pump. You can put the same in there. You can get it into your car with very little modification. Your car, although it's an internal combustion engine and it's not what people think of a fuel cell and electric vehicle at this stage, ahead of that you could use a fuel that you could produce yourself. Now that's going to save a lot of money, because the importation of fuel is a major issue at the moment. It comes from troubled areas. It comes into our refineries, which are so outdated that they're actually giving us dirty fuel, and it's causing terrible pollution in our air. Costs us an arm and a leg. That money goes out the country. I know that the government says, we get taxes at the pumps. You can still get taxes at the pumps with hydrogen. You could use the sunlight, put it down into, turn it into electricity, put it through seawater, get your hydrogen, put it in the tankers, export some of it, because there's a big demand, and there's a growing demand for clean hydrogen coming from the sun. Get it up here as well, maybe use existing pipeline networks, why not? And just like we used to have a Sasol pump, you could have a hydrogen pump, and people could adjust their cars slightly to take this, or you can mix it with the actual fuel. You can mix it with this fuel as well. Save you a lot of money. So I can't see why South Africa shouldn't do it. It would save a lot of foreign exchange. It would move us into a prime position in the mitigation of climate change, make us look good, and we could see that no pollution would be around the place locally.
Well, thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the local and global mining industries. And don't forget to listen to the audio version of our Mining Weekly daily email newsletter.